let me take you towards an insightful exploration of spiritual practices in India and of idol worshipping cultures across the world. Now, as for the brilliant and accomplished minds on this panel, this is when I feel an MC's job could be slightly redundant. Because how exactly does one introduce the author of the highly successful Shiva trilogy and the Ramchandra series? You really can't, right? But I can make an effort. And I can tell you that his books have sold more than 7 million copies and have been translated into over 20 languages. Also, he's an Indian government diplomat and he's a familiar face as a host for television documentaries and a film producer as well. So from IIM Kolkata to banking and financial services to turning author with the Immortals of Meluha. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause for our beloved author, Amish Tripathi. I would request him to come up on the dais. भाई तालियां थोड़ी और हो जाए, अभी तो सुबह सुबह का वक्त है. कुछ मेहनत आप कीजिए, कुछ मैं करूंगी, मिलकर समा बन जाएगा, राइट? अब मैं आपको मसूरी, पुणे और मुंबई की सैर एक साथ कराऊंगी because those are the places where our next speaker was educated, in Mussoorie, Pune and Mumbai. Now, after graduating in psychology from Mumbai University, she qualified for the Indian Administrative Services. And having trained partly at the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, she quit and then worked first as a volunteer in a school for special children in Malegaon and then in an NGO in Nasik called SOS. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for our speaker, Bhavna Roy. आज क्योंकि इस महफिल में आध्यात्मिकता यानी स्पिरिचुअलिटी का रस घुल चुका है, तो समा बांधने के लिए एक कवि से बेहतर और कोई नहीं हो सकता था, राइट? So let's now turn to our moderator, who's one of the prominent poets of contemporary India, and her collection of Hindustani poems, Lamho Ki Shabnam, is a bestseller. Her works, A Life of Light, Zara Si Dhoop, Waqt Ke Ujale Mein, and Petrikar, will give you some very memorable words and pearls of wisdom that you would want to keep with yourself forever. And Waqt Ke Ujale Mein was conferred the Best Poetry Collection Award in 2017 by the Chandigarh Sahitya Academy. A senior administrator of the Indian Administrative Services, she has handled prestigious portfolios both in the centre and Haryana state governments. And currently, she holds the office of Additional Chief Secretary. Ladies and gentlemen, now handing over the conversation to our founder chairperson for Chandigarh Literary Society and our festival director and curator, Dr. Sumita Mishra. All yours, ma'am. All yours.
Good morning, friends. It's always enjoyable to talk to Amish, but I'm seriously super excited today because we have somebody very special with us, my very dear friend, Bhavna, who's Amish's sister also. So Amish, you're really going to have to share the spotlight today.
I have Didis on both sides. So I think I will just stay silent.
I don't think anybody can silence you. This is somebody who's just returned from London, just returned from Oxford University, and as he told us last night, after winning the Oxford Union debate, and that too on a topic as huge as God is a delusion. So big round of applause for Amish for that. So as I said, Amish is like, supercharged oxygen by himself, and Bhavna is erudition, brilliance and wit all together. So I'm really looking forward to this session. Welcome to both of you to Chandigarh. I'm so glad you made the trip, and Bhavna especially with your sprained ankle, for making it out here to Chandigarh, and we're really happy to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Sumita.
Okay, so this is your second book together. What was the genesis of this collaboration? And it's non-fiction, so that's also another level.
Didi?
Pehle aap.
Arey nahi. Beauty for age.
Are you calling me old?
Okay, let me begin. It was actually a literature festival like this, and as I'm sure many of you are aware, most of my readers are young. They are the youth, and at just such an event, a gentleman, a kid, it looked like a college kid. He got up and he said, "Amish, I like your books." He said, "I'm a very proud Hindu, but I'm obviously not an idol worshipper." And that intrigued me. I asked him why, what's wrong with idol worshipping? He said, no, I know there's no God in there. And that is not God, obviously. Now, the kid was with his friend, so I didn't want to embarrass him. I let him get on to his question. But that actually set, a conversation within our family that why do Indians think this way? We are the only pre-Bronze Age culture that is still alive. Most of the ancient world was actually idol worshipping. We are among the few that have managed to survive. India, to an extent, China and Japan are also idol worshipping. But we are the only ones. And why are we still so defensive? When every other idol worshipping culture across the world they died out. In fact, most of them were, violently massacred out of existence. And if you start thinking about it, you realize we're among the last idol worshipping cultures in India. And there's a song like Patthar ki puja karke hari mein hari. Everyone heard that song? Yeah, Patthar ki puja karke hari mein hari. So in a country like India, a song like this is written and then it's sung. And then Indians convert this song into a massive hit. Right? And why is that? Why do we not understand our own way? When through history, various idol rejecting cultures have gone around the world massacring idol worshipping cultures simply because they worshipped idols. And you find almost no case study of the reverse. Not just in India, nowhere. No idol worshipping culture went around the world saying, you're not worshipping an idol, I will kill you, I'll kill your entire village, I'll kill your entire culture, I'll burn everything down. Why did no idol worshipping culture do that? I'm not saying idol worshipping cultures are perfect or idol rejecting cultures are all wrong. There are strengths in idol rejecting cultures, there are weaknesses in idol worshipping cultures. But we need to understand our way at least and why we are so intuitively liberal. So we thought we should actually bring this point across, and then Didi and I started working on this.
You want to add to that, Bhavna?
Well, there were a couple of other reasons as well. We've written it in our foreword. At a dinner, one evening at home, we had a friend over, and she said, but why do the two of you keep saying idol worshipping, idol worshipping? We're not idol worshipping, hum murti pujak hain. And there is a difference. हम मूर्तियों की प्राण प्रतिष्ठा करते हैं. You should stop using that phrase. We are different. In the past 3,000, actually in the past around 2,000 years, there has been great violence that has been practiced in the name of prejudice against idol worshipping. This prejudice actually was born almost 3,500 years ago, and it was doctrinal prejudice that was ingrained in the holy books of the Abrahamic cultures. The eldest brother being Judaism, the younger two that actually carried out the violence. The eldest brother set the template in their holy book, which is the Torah, the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. The book of Deuteronomy, the book of Exodus, explicitly calls idol worshipping devil worshipping. And it is wrong. It should be wiped off planet Earth. And it was, indeed, it was done with rigor and a great deal of zealotry. As Amish said, almost all, except barring us and maybe Shintoism in Japan, were wiped out, either massacred violently or overwritten. The descendants of those ancient idol worshippers reject it completely from their hearts. It isn't as if idol worshipping was very different from Murti Puja. If you go into the texts and the ways of life of the ancient, what are called the pagan ways of worship, if you read the Book of the Dead.
Just to interject, I find the word pagan itself very contemptuous and colonial in a sense.
Absolutely, and we must reclaim it as
As
pagan
something-
people.
Yeah, well said.
The beauty of paganism, because there's the poet and poetess before us were talking about women and the power of women. Actually, female goddess worship was very central to the pagan way of life. Coming back to the doctrine, the ancient chemic culture, which is modern Egypt today, their Book of the Dead has very, very vistar se likha hai, the rituals and the way the gods and goddesses are to be worshipped. तो प्राण प्रतिष्ठा वहाँ भी थी. The oracle, worshipping in ancient Greece has very ancient, very well-written, strict almost rituals that were practiced for the gods that lived on Mount Olympus. Murti puja is proudly idol worshipping. And idol worshipping is Murti Puja. We owe it not only to our own ancestors, but the ancestors, on this globe, the idol worshipping cultures that no longer exist today, except in museums.
And except in India, perhaps. So what is the role, according to you, of idol worship, of Murti Puja? Your book is titled Unearthing the Power of Murti Puja. So for a common practitioner, why does Murti Puja work? Is it because it makes prayer more accessible by focusing on a physical form? Is it by the multi-sensory experience that it provides? What do you think, why Murti Puja? Why does it work? Or why do you think it's so vital in our culture even today?
At a simple level,
Or is it the Sakar Bhagwan?
Yeah, and the Nirgun Nirakar. At a fundamental level, the difference between what I would call the dharmic religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and I would also include Indian Islam, Indian Christianity in it. Islam, Indian Christianity are fundamentally different from, in many ways, of how they approach things as compared to abroad. We see the entire universe as divine. We don't see God as a being that exists outside of the universe, a male God who exists outside of the universe, and that the universe
judging and
that the
punishing.
universe itself is profane in a way, a product of sin. That's what the original sin was.
Yes.
Right? In our way, we see everything as divine, not just the gods, but all of us, you and me, that lake, the trees, the mountain, we see everything as divine. The very word namaste, I'm sure in this audience people would know what it actually translates as, because in Oxford I asked that what does namaste mean, and most Westerners translate it as hello. But actually namaste means I bow to the divine within you. Right? It's a very beautiful thought. So essentially, what does Murti Puja or nature worship, and we worship trees, in the both guy we worship the trees, right? We worship
Tulsi Mata at home every day.
Tulsi Mata.
Every evening.
So we see the divinity in everything, including in each other. And therefore, we are in us, and that is what makes us intuitively liberal. And if you think about it, humanity naturally thinks that way. If you ask, if you do a pop quiz out here, most people, if their parents, have say moved on, and they have a picture of their parents in a room, right? Earlier, they would never smoke, even if they do smoke, they wouldn't smoke in front of their parents. Yeah. But if you ask most people, would you smoke in front of their pictures? They wouldn't do that either, right? Now, you can call this silly, or you can find it very beautiful, that I see the pictures of my parents and I feel a connection. And what exactly is wrong with this? If you're seeing the divinity in everything, it connects you deeper to the earth that we live on, connects you deeper to each other, connects you deeper to your family. If you see the divinity in everything. That's why I said Indian Islam as well. What is Ajmer Dargah? It's a tomb of a Muslim Sufi saint, and you'll pray out there, right? So this is seeing the divine in everything makes you intuitively liberal.
In fact, you've used the phrase the pitfalls of certainty. And, you said intuitively liberal. But I think to be intuitively liberal, you need that approach. That approach that is not starkly binary, that for me to be a 1, you have to be a 0.
Yeah.
So, and so this whole worldview is that there are many paths to God. It's like a cafeteria. And particularly, I think in Sanatan Dharma, you can actually pick whether you want to be an atheist or a hedonist or it's a cafeteria approach
True.
in a sense.
And it's true because there's Sanskrit terms for it. For
Yes.
hedonist, there's charvak. There's, for atheists, Sankhya, Vivansas, they are atheists. So, but sorry, go ahead.
If I can add to this, Murti Puja, at a very basic level, of course, it is bhakti, it is solace, it offers hope. But at its higher levels, it can be a means to attain self-understanding, and it can also be a tool to channel emotions. If I may share a personal anecdote with all of you here. We are 4 brothers and sisters, and I'm the oldest, and Amish has a twin called Ashish, and 8 saal chote
I'm younger even among the twins. I'm the youngest.
12 minute chota hai Ashish se. And there's an 8-year gap between Ashish and Amish and I, and of course there's one more brother in between, Anish. There was a time when my parents lived in Rourkela, Odisha, and Anish and I were in boarding school at the time, and Ashish and Amish were too young. They were later sent to Ooty, a boarding school, but at the time they were with mummy and papa. Not quite Rourkela, actually it was a small little, I don't know what to call it, a hick town called Kansbahal, which was 35 kilometers away from Rourkela. Now, when Anish and I would come over for our winter breaks, we went to boarding school in Mussoorie. And तो celebration time होता था कि 2 बड़े बच्चे आ गए, and the 6 of us would have a lot of fun. My father was a flamboyant, fun-filled human being. और once a week on Sundays हम लोग कांसबहाल से ओडिशा राउरकेला जाते थे to spend the whole day in Rourkela, have dinner, maybe catch a movie and come back home. Every other week on our way back from Rourkela to Kansbahal, as we drove back in the night, एक पुराना तारनी माँ का मंदिर था en route to Kansbahal. And my mom would sort of just signal my father, and my father knew what to do. He would stop the car. 6 of us would troop into Tarni Ma ke mandir. And my father and my 3 brothers would do their darshan and then wait outside. I would insist on standing beside my mother. And a strange well of emotions would just well up in my mother, and she would burst into tears. Looking at Tarni Ma, she would bawl. She would cry and cry and cry and cry, break down completely. I must have been 11, 12 years old. I used to be standing beside her, angry. So the emotion that I felt was angry. Why is this goddess making my mother cry? What's going on here? And my mother would do her crying, and then it was as if she would be cleansed. And then she and I would come out, and my father, the brothers, all would pretend nothing unusual has occurred. And my mom would bounce back into being her vibrant, positive self, and we'd go back home. Very strange experience, this goddess worshipping provided my mom. It was as if andar se jhadu pocha lag gaya mummy mein. And to end this little anecdote, Amish talked about Indian Islam, and I'd like to share something really beautiful with all of you. In Kansbahal, we had an uncle called Iqbal uncle. He used to work with my father and occasionally would come home to tutor the twins. And to this day, I'm talking about, I was 11, 12, when this incident would occur. And to this day, once a month, Iqbal uncle calls up my mother and says, "Bhabhi, aapka chadhawa de diya maa ko." And
Nice.
mummy,
How beautiful.
yeah, and you know, once he said to mummy कि भाभी आना पड़ेगा, मेरे पैसे जा रहे हैं माँ को, तो चढ़ावा तो आपका होना चाहिए. तो मम्मी ने बोला इकबाल तुम्हारे पैसे मेरे पैसे एक हैं.
Beautiful. In fact, that brings me to what I was mentioning earlier, that, you know, this is the kind of mutual respect and love that should form the basis of all belief in the divine. But on the other hand, we seem to be moving to, and respect is always a two-way street. It's mutual. So, do you see that happening, or do you see less and less of that happening? The mutual respect between different cultures and worldviews, because yes, as you have said, it's ingrained in us that all paths are equally valuable or equally respect worthy. But that may not be the case where you have a worldview that is, as I said, binary. It's my way is the only way.
Yeah, good question, because
And
I saw
can
this.
we help foster it?
I
across
saw this
people?
debate, at Oxford, what you were speaking of, and the way Western atheists speak of Christianity. I'm not a Christian, but I feel like, yaar, thoda ati kar rahe ho. I mean, you have every right to criticize, but there's this Indian term, shabdon ki maryada.
Bilkul.
When you're talking about God, even when you criticize, there must be some shabdon ki maryada. Certain words should not be used. And I've seen in the West that the religions would be doctrinaire and one truth driven.
Yeah.
And then the reaction to it, which is the atheism, is also frankly one truth and doctrinaire. The atheist can be as extremist. And this
So
is the
those who are
fear that it
attacking-
just swings from one extreme to the other, and then again to the other extreme, and then again to the other extreme. And that's where I think India actually has a lot to
offer the world.
offer the world. Because in our way, it's very natural, the concept of mutual respect. I'm not saying India is perfect. There are many things we need to improve, but this is one of the things that we truly can teach the world. This concept of ati sarvatra varjayit, extremism of any kind should be avoided. And when I speak out there, if I say, I'll go to the Golden Temple and I'll pray, or I'll go to Haj Ali Dargah and I'll pray, people will say, but you're a Hindu,
Yeah.
Or Sikh will come to, and at Ayodhya there are to Ram Janmabhoomi. We had gone, I saw Sikhs coming and praying out there.
In fact,
there are
there's a-
Muslims outside who come in, and Manganyar Muslims who came to the Ram Janmabhoomi. So this is actually our natural way, and this is a much more stable form of liberalism where it's based on mutual respect.
Respect.
This we can certainly help the world with. Yeah.
If I may add to this, what Amish said, there's another phenomenon operating in the world today, which is the phenomenon called social media.
Yeah.
It enhances polarity.
I think that's very well said.
And it enhances polarity in a very determined and, again, doctrinal fashion. The documentary Social Dilemma, everyone should watch the documentary Social Dilemma. It is on the phenomenon of social media and how कितना हावी हो गया है आजकल हमारी ज़िंदगी में. Douglas Murray, in his book Madness of Crowds, related a very interesting incident. He said that a tweet once went viral by a woman feminist, which was "Men are trash, kill all men." In a conference, he happened to meet this lady whose tweet went globally viral. And he said, "But why did you tweet that? What did you mean? Do you really mean that? Kill all men?" She said, "No, actually, all I wanted to say was, I wish life would be a little better for women, but would that have gone viral?" And you know, the fathers of social media companies themselves in social dilemma, Tristan Harrods, Ken Thompson, have said that this is programmed into the algorithms of you know, these platforms.
Yes.
The algorithms, persuasive algorithms, will first nudge you towards a rabbit hole, and once you've gone into that rabbit hole, recommendation algorithms keep you there.
It's a multiplier effect then.
Absolutely.
More and more extreme.
And keep your head in a tizzy so that every time you go on X, you come back with, oh my God, the world is a terrible, terrible place.
Also when you go on X, you believe everyone thinks like me, because you are in your own rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
And then when you encounter someone who doesn't think like you, you go into an absolute polarity, and opinions and have become so fragile, and personalities have become so fragile today.
As you're saying, that rabbit hole serves to keep on othering everyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Attention
Everyone who thinks differently.
One of the things you always need to notice that the people who actually created the smartphones, the CEOs of the social media company, their own children are not allowed to get onto
Yeah.
social media.
Absolutely.
And
And
this
they
is so
admit
toxic.
it.
It's a well-known
And they
fact.
admit it.
The CEOs, because they know what they are selling.
Yes.
So their own children are not allowed to get onto social media till they become majors. But हमारे बच्चे हम लोग आंख में झोंक रहे हैं.
अच्छा, और फिर हम सोचते हैं दुनिया को क्या हो गया है, दुनिया कितनी खराब हो गई है, एंड यू नो यहाँ इतनी इंटॉलरेंस यू नो बढ़ रही है और वहाँ वो बढ़ रहा है. दीज आर persuasive and recommendation algorithms that are making a fool out of us.
Absolutely. Coming back to Murti Puja, I travel a lot. Many of us do, and you know, Hindu goddesses have been widely caricatured or mocked in Western or pop culture, and sometimes. So, how does a normal practitioner defend or explain the significance or the symbolism of, let's say, Hanumanji as a monkey god, Ganeshji as the elephant-headed god, or Ma Kali in even worse words? So, can you help us out there?
Actually, the first thing you have to understand where they are coming from, because they feel such a deep need to prove that their truth is the truth. They feel a deep need to insult others. Actually, you should pity them. It's sad. And Western atheists also now, they won't just
No, but this is
insult
not just
Hinduism.
Western. I think now
They'll
it's
insult even Christianity and Islam. But that's one aspect. The second aspect is actually we know our own traditions. Then we can better explain, right? What
so
it
this
means.
book
So
is a step towards that.
this book actually goes into explaining the symbology behind
Yes.
all the murtis. That's why we've written a book such as this, so that you can be clearer about
Yes.
what they mean to you. Secondly, if someone stupidly attacks you like this, you have an answer. And normally you'll realize that if an ideology is internally strong and can stand up to an argument, it doesn't need blasphemy. But if an ideology is not strong, then they'll enforce blasphemy, because they know that they cannot argue with you. Then you pull out the best argument there is, that I'll cut off your head. It's an intriguingly strong argument.
Well said.
But we don't need to do that, because our arguments are actually strong. We just need to know them. And if it serves a purpose, if it has served a purpose for thousands of years, it shows that the argument is actually strong.
You want to add to that, Bhavna?
I'm a big votary for respect, all around respect. Humanity has to learn to engage deeply and frankly and honestly with respectful conversations. The thing with respect is it has to be a two-way street.
Yes, that's well said. It has to
That's
be mutual.
extremely important. So, respect me, I respect you. As a human being, as a community, as religions, as communities, as countries, mutual respect is extremely important. And ek tarfi ye nahi chalega. And Amish and I had written an article on this, talking about the Nash Equilibrium. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Actually, no, why don't you?
You do it very well. It has a lot of math in it, and you're the math graduate.
So, how many know of the Nash Equilibrium? Anyone who's math scratch? Okay, have you seen that movie Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
Beautiful Mind. How many have seen that? Much greater number. So that essentially is game theory, and how it works is how choices get made, decisions get made, and one of the things we have to realize is we don't just make the decisions basis what we think is the right thing. We also react to how others make decisions.
Yes. How
right?
they're going to make
Yeah.
decisions also.
So, if you see this, the perspective of mutual respect from the Nash equilibrium, and John Nash earned a Nobel Prize for that equilibrium, and that game theory is actually used in modern day for decision making everywhere. It has been proven to be right repeatedly. So, if you put that on a 2 by 2 matrix where one is everyone respects each other, and on the other extreme, everyone disrespects each other. Okay. But say there is where there are other parts of the game theory where one person is respecting the other, but there is no respect in return. Right? Game theory says very clearly that will only last till some time. Because ultimately, either the one who's being disrespected, where if we are speaking with respect to someone else, and that person keeps saying, no, I will kill you just because you're worshipping a murti, then the sad part that will happen is then even we'll start becoming ill-tolerant. Right? And that's what the Nash equilibrium predicts. It will happen. And it will move to a world where everyone becomes intolerant. And you see that in the West, frankly. So it is not good for a society if you actually allow this. Now, this is a mathematical way of showing Karl Popper's paradox, right? That if you tolerate the intolerant, tolerance will die.
Yes.
Because the tolerant will either get killed or they themselves become intolerant. So, which means that if everyone has a right to say my truth is the truth. But if you say that everyone else is false,
Yes.
and I have to kill you or convert you, yeah, that's not okay. Not in India. You can do it somewhere else. Not here.
Well,
Right?
preferably not anywhere.
Yeah, preferably not anywhere, but God, we can't reform the entire world. But this concept of mutual respect is very critical. If
Yes.
we don't enforce it, we will become like some of those countries where there's no space for a reasonable
For
debate.
diversity and plurality
And so
to
we have to
exist.
realize that this mutual respect is not just a theoretical discussion. Our ancestors have fought a lot over the centuries of invasions that we suffered to keep this alive. If Chhatrapati Shivaji, for example, when he was fighting Aurangzeb or the Bamani kingdoms, he would fight the soldiers very aggressively and brutally, as he should. But he always had a norm for his army. Women will not be touched, children will not be touched, religious scriptures, even of other religions, will not be defiled. Because his entire thing was, we are fighting with dharma. And that ensured that, and he had Muslims in his army as well,
Yes.
right? So his entire thing was, we are not just fighting an enemy, we are fighting for our way of life, which is actually about mutual respect. And we must be crystal clear about this. Because moment we start prevaricating on this, it will go down a rabbit hole where Nash Equilibrium says very clearly, everyone will become intolerant. There is no... Because if someone keeps insulting, say, Lord Shiva, but I am respecting other gods, there will come a time where I will react.
Yes, there
Right?
will
Because
be a
I worship Lord
counterpoint.
Shiva.
Yeah.
Right? So which is why we must have this concept of mutual respect, which is why I said what I said, that Oxford, they were speaking of Christianity. I'm not a Christian. But as an Indian, I was wincing. Yeah, you can criticize, but certain words should not be used when you're speaking of Jesus Christ or the Bible. It's not okay. Right? And that is the Indian way.
Absolutely, and in fact, in this book, this book throws up a lot of questions, and for me, it was very difficult to sort of extract the few questions for a session because it's a very big canvas, and it's as always written eloquently, respectfully, and in as simple as a way. Einstein said, everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. So I think you've kept to that essence. You also said that idol worshippers are natural environmentalists. So now that everyone is suddenly green or greenwashing at least, would you like to expatiate on this point?
Go ahead.
Achha, okay, environmentalism has suddenly become fashionable in the West. And I'm sure everyone has heard of the Paris Environmental Treaty, Paris Accord, yeah? And there were 20 countries which signed on it. Guess which is the only country which achieved its goals? India. Who said India? Yeah, applause for her. She's right.
Applause for India.
And applause for India. Loud applause. All of India should hear this. We are the only country which achieved its Paris goals. Admittedly, our goals were lower, but that's because for poorer countries, the goals are lower. And in fact, the richer countries were supposed to pay for some of the mitigation, right? Which is why other poorer countries like South Africa did not achieve its goals. India also did not get money from the West to achieve these goals. We said the hell with it, we still went ahead and achieved our goals, right? Why is that? Because I think for most Indian politicians, I have a lot of respect for Indian politicians. I know it's very difficult, very easy to criticize them, but India is not an easy country to manage.
No, absolutely.
We are a very difficult people, let's be
We are a
honest.
fractious,
Okay?
loud,
Yeah, we are
argumentative.
loud, argumentative, we are a
Yes.
difficult people,
Yeah.
right? And we are more of a continent than a country. We have more people than all of America, Europe and the Gulf states combined. We have more languages than all these regions combined. We have practically every single religion in the world out here.
And the home to many.
And home to many. We are a very difficult population to manage. So I have respect for Indian politicians. And if Indian politicians can get something done, it means that there is a popular will for it. There is this thing that, the Indian state somehow made us liberal and secular in 1947. The Indian state also tried to enforce English and Hindi, in the 1960s. How did that go? Not too well, right?
Yeah.
So the Indian state is not so strong that it can enforce something against the popular will, right? Because Indians are not the kind who will just peacefully just accept anything, right? So which means we were ready to accept liberalism and secularism, but our definition of secularism, right? Similarly for
In fact,
environmentalism.
it was already
coming
in our
back.
DNA.
Exactly.
Not from 1947,
Similarly-
but for the last 4,000 years maybe.
Similarly for environmentalism, it's not a difficult sell. Because for us, nature is not a resource to be exploited. It's a goddess to be worshipped, right? So if you speak of cleaning and maintaining our rivers, it's not a difficult political sell because you're saving Ganga Ma, you're saving Kaveri Ma, right? When you're fighting for the mountains, you're saving the Himalayas, which are sacred to us. It's not a difficult political sell. And India, actually, if you take our food habits into account, is actually among the most environment friendly, by far, nations on earth. That's conveniently West doesn't count it, right?
Yes,
The
in
food
fact,
habits,
food
because
habits are-
India is largely vegetarian. Nearly 30-35% are completely vegetarian. Even those who eat meat eat very infrequently. In
No,
fact,
and they
Punjab
eat-
is
they eat
by the way
chicken.
the most vegetarian state in India. Most people don't know this, which means Punjab is actually the most environment friendly state in India. Loud applause for Punjab. And Haryana is the second most vegetarian state. Loud applause for Haryana as well.
And I think also
So
the
food habits is actually among the biggest components. Just the beef industry in the West causes more carbon emissions than the entire automobile industry combined, right?
And
So
nobody
actually we are
talks
very-
about this.
Nobody talks about
Nobody
it.
talks about
Yeah.
it.
So actually we are very environment friendly because of our natural approach.
Yes, because the non-veg that is eaten in India is largely chicken or fish.
And most people who eat meat
Chicken.
also रोज नहीं खाते हैं.
Once a
हफ्ते
week.
में एक बार.
बहुत से बात 2 बारी.
हाँ, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 2 बार. It's not a daily thing. In most other countries, meat is like breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yeah. And I think there's also this whole culture of conservation built into our mindset that everything has to be reused, recycled, repurposed.
Yes.
Like we are the original gurus of the circular economy.
Absolutely.
कि चीज शुरू होती है maybe as a shirt or a salwar suit और वो खत्म होती है किस form में as a
झाड़ू पोछा.
so we are the original bosses of that. Okay, it's one of the sad things, I think, that Indians today, especially modern educated Indians, are so ignorant or so dismissive of so much that is already there in our ancient science, astronomy, medicine, wellness, literature. So, do you think this is because of this whole Macaulay constructed modern education, English based education system we have? Any thoughts on educational reform that
अरे आप
should at
answer
least teach Indians
आप
something
करें।
about India and its own wealth?
I couldn't agree more on this, something I'm deeply passionate about.
I'm
We
very
need
happy to hear that.
decolonize our education system. Our entire education system, the entire frame is पढ़ा लिखा के किसी तरह बच्चे को अंग्रेज बना दो.
With
That's the
no
aim
connect
of our,
to our
no
own-
connect to
no
our culture
connect.
at all. So, how many have studied maths, at least till the 10th standard? Everyone, I assume. Yeah, you've heard of Pythagoras theorem. Yeah?
Yeah.
Who'd actually discovered Pythagoras theorem? It's not Pythagoras. Let me make it easy for you. Who'd actually discovered it?
You'll have
No,
to tell
not
us.
Aryabhata. Bodhayana.
Oh,
Okay? It's written in the Shilpa Sutras at least 200 years earlier. Okay? Everyone
This
has...
fact is recognized by the West today,
By
but
the-
not
yeah.
Indian textbooks.
I'm a
Oh.
BSc Maths graduate, and Western mathematicians have accepted it. Okay, another pop quiz. How many have heard of the Fibonacci series?
yeah, everybody.
Everyone? You would have studied it in school. Who discovered the Fibonacci series? Again, obvious, it's not Fibonacci. Who discovered it? It was discovered in India. Probably Pingala. Okay, he probably discovered it. Fibonacci himself did not plagiarize. In his own book, he wrote it as the India series.
Oh,
He did not plagiarize. He actually acknowledged his source.
but I mean,
But
I've never.
post that, Europeans very smoothly
Yes,
changed it, and we Indians, of course, यार गोरे ने बोला होगा तो सही होगा.
सही बात है.
Correct.
Algebra.
Algebra. Okay, algebra. I'm sure everyone has heard is based on a. And the very term algebra is based on Al-Khwarizm, who had written the book. Al-Khwarizm was an Arabic mathematician. Everyone has heard of him?
Yes.
Yeah. What is the name of Al-Khwarizm's book where he actually wrote of algebra?
What is it? You have to tell us. We don't
Kitab
know.
al-Hisab al-Hindi, the book of Indian mathematics. Okay. So Al-Khwarizm did not plagiarize. He did not lie. He acknowledged his source. And this is just one example. Okay. In sciences, for example, right, we believe that, oh, we didn't, Westerners came and, taught us how to do
Us
metallurgy.
pagans.
We were, of course, monkeys before they came and civilized us. In sciences, in medicine, in every single area, our accomplishments, our ancestors discovered and wrote a hell of a lot. Writing itself. Everyone believes that India was an oral culture. Yeah? Anyone says we weren't only an oral culture, raise your hands, that we had writing as well. Yeah, a good number.
Shruti and Smriti.
Sadly, a majority still believe that India was an oral culture. Why? Because the British told us we were an oral culture. Hum to gadhe the, they came and taught us writing. So let me give you statistics. Okay. Greece, which is the mother culture of Europe.
Yeah.
The mother culture of Europe. There are around 20 to 25,000 handwritten Greek manuscripts that survive till today. Ancient. Earlier, they didn't print it, right? They used to handwrite it. So, 20 to 25,000 ancient Greek manuscripts, handwritten, that survive till today. Shows the knowledge production of the Greek culture. Okay? Guess how many ancient Sanskrit handwritten manuscripts survive till today? Guess. Despite the destruction of the Nalanda University, which in my mind was the greatest disaster for humanity ever. Everything else can be rebuilt. Once knowledge is gone, it's gone. Right? True. And it's not just the Nalanda University, the Takshashila, Vikramshila, Ujjaini, Mahodaypuram, across India, so many universities were burnt to the ground and all their manuscripts destroyed. Despite all that, guess how many Sanskrit handwritten manuscripts survive till today? Ancient Greece, 25,000. Anyone wants to take a guess? In lakhs? Who said lakhs? Lakhs, how many lakhs? Give a specific number. 25 lakhs? Yeah, go slightly higher. No, not that high. 30 lakhs. Okay.
Wow,
3
wow.
million. Greek 25,000.
1,000.
Sanskrit 3 million. And this is only Sanskrit. There were other classical languages as well. And
Yes.
this is as per the National Mission of Manuscripts. Our ancestors wrote more than the rest of the world combined.
together.
Combined. The underachievers were not our ancestors. The underachievers are us. We don't even know this.
Yes.
We haven't even translated them. We haven't even studied them. We are unworthy descendants of really kick-ass ancestors. And what we need to do is decolonize our education system, reconnect to our roots, because there's a treasure out there of medicine, engineering, so many navigation, so many things. We should learn from the West too. Our ancestors were very happy to learn from others. Right? Goddess Saraswati can bless anyone. But if we have so much of a treasure house of our own, let's decolonize our education system and learn them. We'll be the beneficiaries.
Absolutely
And no
agree.
one is, look, the UK is not going to care. King Charles is not going to come and protest out here if we decolonize the education system. The fault is ours that we
Yes.
haven't decolonized.
True.
थोड़ा
We are-
लंबा हो गया, but I'm very passionate
We are
about this.
running out of time, and I had a ton of questions. So I'm going to now keep it 2 very quick questions. This is a brother-sister collaboration. She's 8 years older than you, right? तो मतलब जब ये लिख रहे थे तो उसमें नोक झोंक, डिसएग्रीमेंट, ये सब नहीं होता था. And who prevailed?
देखिए, दीदी is दीदी, you know, so
जितने तुम सीधे लगते हो ना, वो नहीं.
from a young age हम तीनों भाइयों का एक ही है कि भाई we propose, she disposes. So हमारा सुझाव होता है कभी कभार तीनों भाइयों का.
तो दीदी
She'll
मान
decide.
लेती है.
मैं बोलूं?
बोलिए.
So, Sumita, seriously speaking, I do think collaborating, especially in a creative field, is either quite impossible or it's a flow. There's nothing in between.
Okay.
And with Amish and me, it's a bit of a flow. And
Wonderful.
let me tell you why. To begin with, in our partnership itself, we are yin and yang. I'm yin, he's yang. I'm Prakriti, he's Purush. I'm feminine, he's masculine. What does that mean? I have ideas. I have thoughts in my head. And I can spill all over the place and reach a point where nobody will understand, probably not even me, what I'm saying and what I'm writing. Amish brings in the structure, the format, the form, the discipline. I'll give you an example. Both Dharm and Idols, I had written a first ideational manuscript. In Dharm, I sent the manuscript to him, and he said, Didi, not happening, this is very academic, it's very textbookish. So I said, kya karun? So he says, aap mujhe karne dijiye. And what he did was, he created these characters. These 2 books are actually, please buy the books, both Dharma and Idols. No gainsaying, I think you'll quite like reading the books. It is actually a dialogue within a family. Dharm is within a family, an old couple, Dharmaraj and Lopamudra, their daughter Gargi, and their son-in-law, Nachiket. Now, this was a creation of Amish. He created these characters. He created this wonderful family, the daughter, the son-in-law, the parents-in-law. The names are,
Also
Google.
significant.
Yes,
They're
Google the
also
names.
very significant.
Dharmraj, Nachiket, Lopamudra and Gargi. And, he just, that manuscript was changed into a conversation by Amish. Genius. Idols may, of course, we added 2 more characters, Anirban and Dr. Adarsh, who expand this this cast. But this was his genius. I'm 8 years older. I'm almost a second mother to him. There's a lot of respect in this direction. We come from a very rooted traditional family, and we quite buy into hierarchy. And I'm very happy to be the older sister. And there's a great deal of respect in this direction. But, ye Amish hai. So there's a lot of respect in this direction as well. Both personally as my brother, and for his craft. What Amish doesn't know about book writing is in all probability not worth knowing.
No.
अरे वाह इनमें ये दीदी का pride है. You can hear the elder sister's pride. Okay, Bhavna, quick question for you.
Yes.
This is someone who cracked the UPSC, got into the IAS, left it. She's my batchmate, and we're meeting after 32 years. So, and
एक मुद्दत से पुकारा नहीं हमने एक दूजे को, शुक्र है आपने पहल की,
wow,
और देखिए ये सुबह हुई.
wow. So she's a very multi-talented lady, and you heard her today, the erudition, the readership. What made you get into authorship? That too, something which is non-fiction based on solid research, and any plans to fly solo?
Not at all.
Okay.
You should. Okay.
Remember, I'm yin, he's yang. Nobody will understand what I'm writing.
Perfect. Amish, last question for you. What's next? What have you got planned?
So we have some more non-fiction books planned, and the idea is we want to explain different parts of dharma. And like I said, I mean, dharma is not just something that actually applies to the dharmic religions, to Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism and Sikhism. It actually applies to Indian Islam, Indian Christianity as well. The Pew survey recently had shown that nearly 90% of Indian Muslims and some 85-86% of Indian Christians believe in the concept of karma and dharma and reincarnation, right? Which is why I say Indian Muslims and Indian Christians are actually different from. So exploring more parts of dharma that we will do on non-fiction.
And fiction, because
and on fiction,
people love your fiction.
Oh, thank you. I have a book on Rajendra Chola coming out, one of the greatest Indian emperors, lived 1,000 years ago. That will come out hopefully in a year and a half around. And I have to write the 5th book of the Ramchandra series.
Yes.
Those who have read the entire series, the Shiva trilogy and the Ramchandra series, you'd know that actually they are interconnected to each other.
Yes.
One of the ways to read the Ramchandra series is that it's a 1500-year prequel to the events of the Shiva trilogy, a bit like the Hobbit series and Lord of the Rings. And the 5th book of the Ramchandra series can be read as the -1 book of the Shiva trilogy, because it will connect everything together.
Wow.
And that 5th book and clues that were left in... No, it's all in here.
It's all in here?
Yeah. And the 5th book will tie up clues that were released even in 2010 with Immortals of Meloa.
Your
And the
mind
5th book
must
of
be
the...
one mind palace.
The clue itself is in the title of the 5th book. It's called The Rise of Meluha. That's the 5th book of the Ramchandra series.
What beautiful architecture.
Thank you.
In literary terms. This conversation can go on, friends, but we really have to call it to a close perforce. It's like, I can never finish a letter to you. I must abandon it is a line from...
But let me end with why Didi and I, really wanted to come to Chandigarh. Of course, it was, when Didi calls, and then Didi and the Chota Bhai have to come. But it's also a delight to come back always to Punjab and Haryana. I'm surprised how many Punjabis and Haryanis also don't know this. Perhaps the oldest hymns in the oldest dharmic scripture, the Rig Veda, were most probably written in Haryana and Punjab. Most probably.
Round of applause for that.
The oldest hymns of the Rig Veda, I'm sure you're aware, is the oldest dharmic scripture. Right? So most of the hymns in there, Sudas of the Bharat tribe, the Battle of the Dasharagna, were all done in the Punjab-Haryana region. So this region is actually the grandmother of our culture.
Beautiful.
So it's a delight to come here always.
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad you did. Amish and Bhavna are going to be here. Please grab a copy of as many books as you can and get them signed. There is no time for Q&A because Niharika is giving me very dirty looks, and she really shouldn't, not with me at least, but what can I do? being a law-abiding festival director. So, and besides, our next session is also a very eagerly awaited one.
निहारिका आपको निहार रही थी.
बहुत गंदी तरीके से निहार रही थी वो मुझे, पहले नीचे से फिर ऊपर से. बट हमारा अगला सेशन भी बहुत खास है, सो इसलिए थैंक यू एवरीवन, एंड वी कैन टेक द क्वेश्चंस ऑफ स्टेज perhaps while they are signing the books.
हम सबका खुदा तो वक्त है, वक्त मुझे निहार रहा था, मैं मैम को निहार रही थी, एंड आई एम ऑल्सो लॉ अबाइडिंग MC, यू नो, आई वांट टू रिटेन माय जॉब एज दिस फॉर एवर, सो आई हैव टू डू दैट. बट इन एनी केस, what a morning it has been, and a scene that matches the depths of this multifaceted conversation. अपने आप के बारे में ना किसी पीर से पूछो ना फ़कीर से पूछो, बस कुछ देर आंखें बंद करके अकेले बैठ के अपने ज़मीर से पूछो. With that, we have a heart full of gratitude, and it's always good to express it. It's the highest form of vibration in the universe. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, please give it up for Amish Tripathi, Bhavna Roy, and Dr. Sumita Mishra. Also, I'm also an elder sister. I feel elder sisters are the best people on earth. Didis are the